Well, here we are again for a second month in a row. The stone carving and lettering takeaway is on a roll.
Yeah, what a fantastic. I can't believe we've managed it. It must be all the sunshine and the good tide and the good wishes. Marvelous people that we're talking to. It's just
Mm.
keeping us going, isn't it?
So we've been working together quite a bit for the last couple of weeks, on and off.
You've been in my workshop. It's been
I've
an
been your
absolute
student.
delight. You've not been my student. You've been my, Charlotte, I think of you as my pacer. You know, people in marathons have somebody who runs beside them to keep their pace regular and on time. You are the business pacer, Charlotte. You keep us
Mm.
going. You're very, what's the word? You're a very positive influence in the workshop. I'm quite surprised how well we worked together. Like we yesterday, I did notice that we just worked in silence for hours. We just had our jobs. And we were just working and getting on, weren't we? It was nice.
I think you have to focus when you're doing that type of, well, I have to focus.
Mm,
And I do like a bit of chat because a lot of my working life has been working by myself.
mm.
And I think, initially I have that blurb that just comes out of my mouth. But then we have to get on and do the work. Always very conscious when you're in somebody else's workspace that you need to not piss them off and be respectful of silence and, clearing up after yourself. I've, been in workshops before where people don't clear up after themselves.
So
Mostly men, not all men, but mostly men.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And you go around clearing up after them at the end of the week. And I don't want to be that person. I think sensitivity to,
You shamed me. You got the Hoover out. You were hoovering. I was like, shit, I better sweep up there.
well, it's
So
my mess.
yeah,
You
it's
can
been
do what you
lovely.
like with your mess in
Yeah,
your
that's very
space.
true. But my mess in a carving workshop, my mess does impact you because it makes a dusty environment, and you have to be. I think it does impact you. I have to
Mhm.
be conscious of that. No, it's been absolutely lovely and an incredible delight to see you work, and the quality of the work is just outstanding. So thank
We're a good
you.
team. We're a
We
good
are.
team. Yeah.
And on
But just
that
can
note,
sorry.
I was going to say on that note, I've got a top tip, but I'm going to save it for later.
Okay. Well, I've been reading a book this week by Miranda Hart, not something I'd normally read, but
Mm.
it was a gift, and I've been reading it, and I read something last night that I thought was really interesting and pertinent to everybody, really. And it's about your mental thought process and how if you have negative thoughts in your head, it has a physical impact on your body. It's like the way the thought process works is a chemical process, and negative thoughts have a physical chemical impact on your body, and positive thoughts equally have a positive chemical impact on your body. Quite a lot of people out there struggle, and it's really hard to change the way that you think. If you're in a negative downward spiral, it can be quite hard to reframe your mind. But I always feel that when you're carving, and you were talking about silence earlier, it's the perfect time to think positively if you're able, and try and train your brain to be positive and joyful in what you do.
Mm.
It's not always easy, but
The
that's
only
my
way
top tip.
I think the only way I can do that is small task completions. I
Mm.
have to break, like, oh, I'm just going to get that done. That's brilliant. Oh, I'm going to get that done. I feel good about that. If you see the whole, often you can go down a kind of desperation, just a dark place, isn't it? It's like, oh, there's so much to do. I haven't got time. I haven't done enough today. Blah 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 blah. But small task completions, I always think, are a really good bright spot that you can sort of punctuate your
Yeah.
working.
And it helps you, that mentality of breaking things down into small tasks,
Makes it
helps
achievable,
you,
doesn't it?
it
Yeah,
helps you cope with what would otherwise be an overwhelming
yeah. It's a dark
end
hole,
point.
isn't it?
There's too much
Yeah,
to get through. So yeah, I
yeah.
think that's good as well.
Overwhelming.
Anyway, we have a lovely guest that we
We
spoke to
do.
this week, well, this month, Lieve Cornil. If you're not familiar with her work, look her up. We'll put the links in the website. She is a lettering artist, designer, graphic designer, calligrapher. She does design for carvings, an absolutely brilliant letterer, dedicated to her skill and craft, and a really passionate and dedicated teacher as well. There's many people who've been through her years of training that she's offered up over the different formats and different years. And she does a really lovely online and in-person mixed course. If you're interested in learning more about lettering, you can look up her course and get in touch with Lieve. We'll put, like we said, we'll put all the notes in all the links in the show notes, but you can just keep listening. Hopefully you'll feel inspired at the end of the discussion. So today we are really delighted to have Lieve Cornil. Is that right, Lieve? Have I pronounced it correctly?
You did a really good job.
Thank you very much. So I met you, I've known about you forever, but I met you for the first time and I was really excited to meet you. It was at Robbie Schneider's workshop a couple of years ago, and
That's right.
I'm really pleased to have you on our podcast. So thank you ever so much for coming on. So for people who don't know you, do you just want to tell us very briefly who you are and what you do, and then we'll kick in with some questions.
Right. Well, thank you first of all for having me. So I'm delighted to be part of this. Well, I've been a professional lettering artist for over 35 years now, and I've been working, freelancing, teaching in the UK, in France, in Belgium, and then teaching a bit all over really. And I've had, well, I still have my own lettering school, meaning that I am offering a long-term educational program where people can actually learn quite a lot about the lettering arts. And I've been doing commission work. I've been doing my own work. Yeah, that's about it. I think I've touched, in a nutshell, on the most aspects of the lettering arts.
Yeah, so it's a really broad range of work that you do. And where are you based at the moment?
Currently based in Belgium. I moved out from Bruges, so I'm no longer there, where I lived for 17 years. And I've moved to the countryside, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's very recent. It's only a few months now.
Okay, good. Well, long may the enjoyment last. So if we could just ask, one of the things we always like to ask our guests is what got you interested in art and design? You know, what were your childhood influences? Were you a creative child, or was it something that came later?
I was thinking about that, and I think I've always drawn, and I've always, from the moment I learned how to write, I started writing. I was rereading Mum's diaries, and she said by the age of 2, I was actually writing capitals.
Wow.
So without even, of course, knowing what I was doing. So I've always been interested in it, but I don't come from artist parents. My parents were both scientists. Music was important, sports was important, but drawing was considered not a thing that clever people would do. And that had
Right.
nothing to do uh, looking down on the visual arts, but having absolutely no bloody idea what it was. So it has been very interesting. Now they both passed, but it's been very interesting to see throughout my career how their view has completely changed and how they admitted, oh my God, we didn't know how wonderful and how important this was. So it was really their ignorance that made me not look into the visual arts really. And it was when I was at primary school, we still had a topic, beautiful writing or handwriting. And I was top of my class because I loved it so much. So that was important. And then I only discovered art from a theoretical point of view when I was in my last year at high school, secondary school. And we had an art teacher who took us to museums and talked about paintings and sculpture. And that for me was mind blowing. There was a whole universe that opened, and I completely went for it. I started to go to museums and exhibitions all by myself, and I was extremely drawn to it. And then when I started university, because that's what I had to do, I signed up for a very, very small workshop calligraphy because I had liked to write, but I didn't know what it was. And it was a weekend workshop. And I remember coming home, I was completely excited and over the moon. But my dad looked at me and he said, I don't know what's going on with you, but you've completely transformed.
Wow.
And that was for me. So I was just 18. That was for me when I discovered calligraphy. And I I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew I had picked up a pen and I was not going to let that go. And that's been really
So
the
were you
start.
studying an arts degree at that time, or was it something else?
No,
Was
I
it?
was doing an MBA in Master of Business Administration and Political Science.
Oh, okay. And did you finish that degree?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So that business administration must have come in. I mean, nobody really likes to talk about the business side of our work, but it's very important, isn't
Oh,
it?
I do. I do. I don't mind it at all because running a business is important and knowing how to run a business is important in what we do. And I love both sides of it, I have to say.
Oh.
I like doing business. I like negotiating with clients, and I like making beautiful stuff that they will buy. So yes, absolutely. It's a part that I really, really like. It's also the same thing with the school. There's a huge part besides the teaching, which has to do in how do you set up this kind of thing, and who are you going to work with, and who's going to do what, and organizing that and getting a structure going is something that I really like. Yeah, I'm very 50-50.
So when you found the calligraphy pen and you finished your degree, I know that you worked for a time as a graphic designer. How did you make that transition from business to the arts?
So when I was 18, I discovered both things. I had to go to university because that was expected of me. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a surgeon. Um, but my dad said, no way, it's too long. You're going to get sick and tired of it. So choose something shorter than that. And so doing my business administration was because I didn't know what to do.
Hmm.
In that year, I discovered calligraphy, and I thought, this is what I want to do, but there's no way my parents are going to let me go into an artistic career. So I plowed my way through university while discovering calligraphy. And in my last year, I thought, this is ridiculous. I really, really want to pursue this calligraphy somehow, stuff, God knows what it is. And I had done a few workshops, and I contacted one of the teachers, Jean Lachet, at the time, and
Okay.
I asked him where to go for a proper training. And he said to me, there's one school going, and you should go to the Scriptorium de Toulouse in the south of France. And then in my last year, that is what I did. I went to see Bernard Herrine with my portfolio, which was completely ridiculous, consisting of about 6 A4 sheets, while later on, I discovered that people would go in with huge portfolios, which I didn't have. And for some reason, I don't know. Well, now I'm teaching, so I do know how it goes. But at that time, I didn't know how he made a decision, but he took me on. And so that's how I made a transition from my university degree, which I had to finish. My parents wanted me to finish that, and then they supported me fully to go to the scriptorium. And that was a 4-year training, but I didn't have money for 4 years. So I had only money for 2 years. So I did the 4 years in 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
So when people say to me, did you see a lot of Toulouse and do you see a lot of France? No way, I didn't see anything. I just saw the studio and that was it. And I would come home to Belgium to meet my family and then go back and study. So no, those were extremely beautiful, but very, very rough years. Yeah.
But I'd imagine that when you did that, that complete immersion in form and lettering gave you an incredible depth of understanding that you might not have. I mean, when I look at your work, I can see that you've got this amazing knowledge of letters and just, I think you have to have a passion where you immerse yourself at some point in something like that, don't you? To it gets under your skin in a way that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. And I was still at the time studying. I had no other responsibilities than to study. I had saved up so I could just spend money. I had worked during the summer, so there was enough money for me to get by. Life was a lot cheaper at that time. I had no children, I had no husband, I had just me and my work. And I was eating letters, I was consuming letters, I was only living for art and letter form. And then being in such an extraordinary setting, in a very medieval concept of master and student and surrounded by fellow students, it was, I think, the ideal setting to get a proper training in a very, very short amount of time. Now, I have to say, not everybody was as crazy and passionate as I was at the scriptorium. It's what I chose to do. I also, I was a little bit older than the others as well. I already had my degree, and I had told Irene, because I turned down a PhD in Belgium because of this, and I had said to the guy, I said, listen, we're not gonna mess about with this. I am turning down another career. So if you think after the first term that I'm here that there's nothing there, that you think I'm, I can't do anything, I'm a waste of space, whatever, I don't know, just tell me. I said, you need to tell me. You need to be honest with me. Because I said, I want to learn this and I want to be all in. But if you, with your experience, you think this is not going anywhere, I trust you enough to tell me. So when that day came at the end of December, I was working away, and he came over to my desk and he said, so what do you think? And I was, of course, I had completely forgotten about this. And I said, what? I said, what do you mean? What do you think? I said, I don't know. I was into my designing. God knows what I was doing. And he said, well, are you staying or are you going? And I'm like, oh, shit. What is he going to say? I said, oh, I would like to stay. Really? I said, yeah, I would really, really like to stay. I've got so much to learn. And then he said, I think we're on. You can stay for as long as you want. So so that was the beginning of a complete, then I was all in after that. I was really all in.
Does this place still exist, the scriptorium?
Yeah, it's mine now.
You took it over. So where you trained is where you ended up running. In my mind,
I hadn't
started your own
realised that.
school.
Yeah.
But actually, you have taken ownership of something that has been going how long? How long has this place been happening?
68 he started, but it's been the same thing with me, and it's of course not the official scriptorium. But what people don't realize is that I went to see Bernard. No, let me tell this properly. So Bernard started in 68 as part of the Beaux-Arts, and then of course, like with everything else, there were troubles and problems. Then he turned it into a private workshop. That's when I was there, and then he stopped. I think in 2005. I think he stopped, if I remember correctly. I graduated there in '94, and in that year he had asked me if I wanted to take over. But I was far too young. I had absolutely no experience. I didn't know what I was doing, and I lacked professional experience. But it had been a topic. He had been thinking about it already. Now, in 2009, when I seriously considered opening an educational program, I went to see him. This is what people don't know. And we had a chat about this because there was no way I was going to do this without his approval. No way. So we had a long chat about it and about the problems I was going to have to face, the difficulties, the beautiful moments. And he talked me through it. And at the end of my 2 days there, he said, you can use any calls, you can use anything I've given to you. He said, are you sure you don't want to move here so that you can keep the name? And I said, I don't want to keep the name. I want to make it mine. It's going to be different. I am not you. So therefore, I can't just take on the name. It's just not right. And I don't want to come back to the south of France either. I'm going to start in Bruges. And that's exactly what happened.
So you called it the European Lettering Institute?
No. We started in Studio 12. This is what it's actually almost, well, this is the business still. Studio 12 has always been the starting point. And I ran that course for about 4 years under that name. And then we were expanding. I started to have, together with a team, a bigger vision on, what if we expand? What if we get more people in? What are we, I had quite a big dream for this. And this is when we decided to change the name into European Lettering Institute.
Oh, okay.
And that ran 10 years, roughly. And now I'm still going, but the name European Lettering Institute is gone. And now it's called LC Courses. But that's just changing.
Are you online only now?
God, no. I have my physical classes. And now we're going to start hybrid because we have been asked by students, can we see you physically, but not as much, and then have an online in between. So we're going to start experimenting with that. And that's really been the school all along. It's been an experiment from day one till now. And I think it's going to continue to be an experiment.
I think what's impressive about it is that there's obviously a great flex in your approach as things change, situations change. You have that ability to flex and respond, and you haven't got a static way of doing it. And I think as makers who survive, running our practices, our studios, I think that we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to change our approaches, our ways of working when we need to. I think it's interesting that you think it is as an experiment, but actually it is like it's an ability to flex based on what you see coming in, and an ability to keep going.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. And I think there are several reasons that I consider, well, I don't even see it as being flexible. It's so second nature to me. First of all, I'm left-handed. So everything that I wanted to do was taught by right-handed people, and I had to be extremely flexible from day one if I wanted to make this as a calligrapher somehow. Looking at what people were showing me, doing it differently, finding my way, not giving up. So that's one thing. On a personal level, I moved to so many different countries when I was growing up that starting again and adapting and seeing what's out there and surviving and making sure you're part of something is also very natural. It comes very natural to me. And then I remember, because I studied in the States for a year with Thomas Ingmar and Aaron Wolf, and I was at the end of my training, and I remember having a very serious conversation with Aaron about my future and how I was going to make a living. And he said to me, well, he said, I think you got two options. He said, either you're going to have some kind of day job working in the post office. Remember, post offices, we don't have them anymore. And then you do your art on your own time, or you start as a freelance calligrapher or lettering artist, and you will have to be flexible and adapt to the commission or the jobs that come in. And if the market changes, you change with the market. It's a different ballgame. And for me, it was obvious. It was obvious. I was not going to have some job on the side. And I know, I said, there's no way I'm going to do that. And I said, well, that means then that I'm going to have to be extremely flexible and adapt. And it really went that way. Yes, and I know for people it's sometimes very difficult because I adapt extremely quickly and I see opportunities, and I'm thinking, oh well, if we do it that way, that's okay too, isn't it? And if we can reach more people that way, then I'll just change my course and we'll do it differently. But I have to say, what you were saying a few questions ago, submerge yourself completely for 2 years full time is the best only way to get a thorough.
Yeah. When we were talking to Tom Kemp in a previous podcast, he picked up the calligraphy pen and brush when he was very young as well. And he made a comment, and like you, when I picked up a calligraphy pen when I was 17, and it consumed me. And my nights, every night from the age of about 17 to, in my 20s, I did calligraphy till, 1 or 2 in the morning. And the comment he made is that when you're young, it's very easy to commit that time because there's nobody else pulling on your time. But, for people who pick these things up when they're older, they don't have that same free time because they've got partners or children that pull them in the evenings. It's not acceptable to spend your evenings doing calligraphy till 1 or 2 in the morning if you're in a partnership with most people, is it?
No.
And so I sort of thought that was I hadn't really thought about that, but I thought it was an interesting comment because those years of immersion are so valuable. I think they give you an incredible grounding, innate response that is doing something every day for years and looking at it, refining it. It's difficult to get, on a 9 to 5 approach, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but what we do, it's not just a job, is it? It's a way of life, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
It's much
It's
more than a
part of
job.
us.
It's, yes, I mean, the times I've tried to run away from it, that I was sick and tired of it. I remember one of my crisis moments, when I wanted to stop everything. And I remember my mum was living with me at the time. I was looking after her. She was quite elderly at the time. And I went to see her, and she was sitting in a chair, and I'm like, I'm fed up with this lettering nonsense. God, nobody gets me. What am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. And crying my eyes out. And then she said, okay, well, then just stop. And I said, what do you mean just stop? And she said, well, then do something else. And I said, well, what would I do? And she said, well, what would you like to do? I said, well, exactly the same thing. so she said, well, stop moaning, stop crying, and get on with life. And I'm like, oh, okay, then, yeah, that makes sense.
Needed her to tell you.
Say again?
You just needed her to tell you, or someone to say, well, these are your options.
Yeah. But I quite like it when it's being when people say quite directly what they think.
Yeah.
It really helps my crazy mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I can see this with many students now. It's a completely different ballgame because they don't have that free time. They don't have those amount of hours that I had, and it just takes things a lot slower. Which
I think a lot of them need to work part-time job, evening work, certainly in the UK.
It has changed so much. It has changed everywhere.
Yeah, I'd love to get on to education in a little bit, because I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff you've got to say about that. But let's just quickly, so tell us about the broad range of your practice as it stands now. So you've got your teaching.
Yeah, there are, if I have to say this or be clear about this, there are three, well, hopefully four soon, but three parts in my career. I got a teaching part, which has been very dominant for the past 20 years, which is still there, but it's different. What I missed after those 20 years was the making. And I got into a situation where I decided to teach a little bit less. It's still too much and it's still a lot, but there you go, which frees up time to make. And what do I make? There are two different companies. There's a web design, logo design, so print design company, which I don't run by myself anymore. I am actually working with a team of people, but we are focusing on that. And I'm the dinosaur there. I'm working with a young team, and I am in a wonderful situation where I can help out when they need me. I draw when they want me to draw. I explain things when they want me to explain, but I'm not running the business. So I'm just, what do they call that? Senior consultant or whatever. I love it. Sounds so good. So I'm in the back seat there, and it's a joy to work with the younger generation. I really, really enjoy that. So then I come in to go to meetings, to convince clients, to do all that sort of stuff. So that's one business. And then the other business, which is picking up seriously, is a letter carving business, which I do with my business partner, Emmanuel Courbillon. And we've been running this I think we designed our first stone in 2007 together. But now with the letter commerce, we are in our 5th or 6th year that we are actually out there designing. 80% is about headstones, and then 20% is public art or restoration work that we do. And that's been an absolute joy as well. I really, really, maybe bizarre to say, but I enjoy making beautiful things for people who are mourning and are in a completely different phase of their lives. So it's been a wonderful addition to my skill to be working with stone again, because when I was training at the scriptorium, I did some carving. I don't carve anymore. I design, actually. I talk to Emmanuel, but I do the design and he does the carving.
And so when you do the design, does it get printed out full size and traced down, or is there room does he carve exactly what you've designed, or is there a level of interpretation?
The idea, it really depends, but it's an extraordinary collaboration, because aesthetically, or the way that we look at curves and letter forms, is, I think, 99% the same. So when I draw, he understands what I draw. We have a very, very similar line making going on. And so, yes, he will carve what I draw because it's the line that he would carve.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice collaboration to have, and quite difficult to find.
It's extraordinary.
I think quite often when people have carved for me, I find it almost impossible not to pick a chisel up and do a few
Yeah.
tweaks afterwards to pull it in line with what I had envisaged.
Well, we rarely have that. And when he wants to change it, as far as I'm concerned, he's the boss. When it gets to carving stage, he knows exactly what he can do with it, and I let him. But we designed a monument or whatever it is. We do that together. And if we had a few big commissions, then of course we're all in together. We will discuss and stuff. But it goes very fluidly. It's rare. It's the first person who understands the curves that I make, and I understand when he does something on stone, or he says, or he explains stuff to me, then I know how to interpret that. So it's a beautiful collaboration.
I think it sounds like something we all would like, something like.
Well, what we've learned, and of course there's a lot of trust, is what we've learned is how to talk about work, how to express what you want to make. And we feel that putting our heads together, it's so much richer than just working on your own. Having said that, when I started out, there was no way I would have been able to do that. I was so into my own way of thinking that I wouldn't have been able to collaborate the way that I collaborate at this particular moment. I think it's probably a bit of age, and it's experience. And when I get to the end of a phase, I like a new phase. And I've worked in London, such high-end logos. I did top logos that I designed, and why would I do that again? I've done it. So now I let other people do it, and if I can help, that's a completely new thing for me. And I thought about this, but when I get to the end of my career, that's the goal, is I want to have tried as many aspects of the lettering arts that I could do. So I'm in for all new experiences to learn, to be in continuous learning mode.
I think we understand that.
I think that's an aim for all of us, isn't it, really? Well, ideally.
Well, not for all of us, I don't think, but it's some of them, thank God for that.
Yes.
So I don't have a style. Hopefully I don't do the same thing twice. I don't like.
What inspires you? Can I ask you that? Are there things that you go to when you're looking for inspiration? Is it pictorial art? Is it nature? Is it, literature? Is it poetry? What is it that you might pick up in a moment? I know obviously with the logos and stuff, you'll have a brand and you'll have an idea of what they're trying to say. But if you're looking for inspiration for your public artworks or other things, I doubt this is a yes, but is there one area that you go to?
No.
Or do you just take inspiration from everywhere?
The inspiration has changed over the years. I remember when I started out, I read and I looked at historical documents and what my contemporaries were doing. So I knew when I was seeing work, who'd done it, who they were, where they were living. So I had a very, very good knowledge database on who was doing what, people who were alive, and then the ancestors in modern calligraphy. I don't take modern calligraphy as in the hand modern calligraphy thingy nonsense stuff, but you know what I mean. Contemporary is a better word. And then the good manuscripts, I knew them also by heart. That's the calligraphic part. But since I was doing much more than calligraphy, I looked into what type designers were doing. I was looking into painting, into sculpture, into dance, into God knows what, literature, poetry. And the whole time I was feeding. Come on, bring it on. And I remember vividly in 2017, I took my son to Venice. And it's not a bad place. It is beautiful. And it was the second time I was there. And I stepped onto this Vaporetto thing. My boy was completely ecstatic by seeing all this beauty around him. And I remember looking and I thought, Jesus, I've seen it all. And that was such a shock. I was so bored at looking at it again. And I thought, ooh, this is a bit scary. And I really felt that I had a visual overload, a complete overload in my brain. I hated going to exhibitions. There was nothing new to see. It was all the same stuff over and over and over again. Nothing new, nothing exciting. And I thought, Jesus, am I going to have a breakdown, a visual breakdown or something? I don't know what it is. And so I stopped going to exhibitions and I stopped looking into books and I stopped for a while. And to be honest, my grandma had always said, Lieve, you'll see, as you're going to get older, you're going to enjoy nature more and more. And I thought, yeah, right, whatever, always the same thing. She's absolutely right. It's one of the reasons I also moved out of the city. I am completely drawn and finding at the moment, since a few years, a lot of inspiration in nature. And that might be a temporary phase. I don't know. But for now, that's really where I am. Of course, literature and text remains the basics for me. It's always words and thoughts and language that really keeps me going as a general source of inspiration. But that is always a starting point to start making things. It's not necessarily the visual stuff that's going to get me started.
Is it when, because I don't do lettering at all, I leave that all up to Charlotte because she's got a lot to say about it and I have no idea what to say about it. Let's leave it at that. But when I approach something and I find, I want to express something, I often firstly look at an emotional response to something, and in my mind there are gestures or descriptive words of tangible things like hard, soft, movement, complicit, engaging. Words like that will run through my head and they will guide my hand into how I respond to a material. Do you obviously you're very literate, you have a broad understanding of the construction of the material that you choose, the letters, etc. But do you find as you get older perhaps other things come in to help kind of influence line and movement, like visceral memories or emotional connections to things come into it as well? Do you feel it as like a whole? Because I think that's really interesting when you're trying to teach them. We'll get to the education side to it. Sometimes I find it very hard to describe why I'm doing something because there is this instinctive emotional response to it that comes through the hand, and it's really hard to explain. And I'm not doing a very good job here. But I wonder if you experience that, or whether I'm utterly isolated here and I should just stop talking.
Well, I have been quite interested in creative processes and how these things go, not just because I teach those things, but I also am interested as a maker how this works and how I work. And we're talking about lettering, but lettering, I don't always use lettering in my work. I'm a painter. I make installations. I do all kinds of things where I don't see the point in using lettering because it can be extremely disrupting and boring to use lettering. Yes, I may offend people, but that doesn't matter, because I also think it's good to just go beyond the world of lettering to then find, if we have to talk about inspiration, that might be a source of inspiration to make new work, lettering wise. Coming back to your question, for me, making work is a whole process. It's not just, oh, I've done a watercolor class, I want to draw a bird, I'm going to use watercolor and I'm going to draw the bird. That is, I was talking about this morning when I was teaching, that is for me level one. But for me, that's not the true engagement with the work. You have to be completely nude before your work and say, I'm all in. And it's about engaging emotionally, spiritually, with your heart, with your work, and entering the dialogue between you and your work. And that's extremely difficult to do, to be honest in that, not escape that, but be true in what you want to say. And it may be that I'm reading something, it may be that I see an image and I feel the inspiration, yes, I want to do something. Now for me, that's not enough to feel I want to do something. Then I will do some soul searching and saying, well, what is it? Why am I attracted to this? Why do I want to do that? And that will be a moment of reflection, can take a long time. So I'm going to go for the why. And there's always a why you want to do something. You just have to dig deep enough. What is it? And it's not always very comfortable, but there's a why I'm attracted to something. It's why these words are appealing to me, why this is bringing up this particular emotion. And I'm going to write that down. I'm going to do some writing. And then what I'm trying to do is come to a phrase, because to one phrase, this is what I want to say, whatever it is, and try to keep that sentence as short as possible, because I know that when I'm going to visualize it, visual language does not want a lot of words. I have to be clear in what I'm trying to express. Now, once I've got that phrase, I can start working, and I can start making, and I can start experimenting. And when I get lost, because I get seduced by color, I get seduced by so many things, I always can refer back to, what is this project about? If it's personal work, I am, thank God, entitled to change that. And I can say, well, actually, I thought I was interested in that, but now I'm no longer interested in that. If it's commercial work, it's the same thing. I get a brief from the client, and I need to respond to what I've been asked to do. So for me, the difference between personal artwork and commercial work is that the client is changing. In commercial work, it's a third party. In artwork, it's me. I'm my own client. And that has helped me enormously in understanding how these processes go. And then when I start experimenting, be it in stone, be it on paper, God knows what I'm doing, I can reflect on, am I still in what I'm trying to express, yes or no? My thinking process, my triad process is usually longer than my making process itself. So once I feel I can grasp the project, I know what it is, then I'm just up and running, and then it can go quite quickly, actually. So I don't work intuitively unless I have an intuitive day where I say, I'm not going to think, I'm just going to do. But that usually is sort of, just trying out things.
Playing.
Yeah, play days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're hard to do, I find, play days, where I get sucked back into the previous day's stuff. Play days often have to be not in the familiar. I have to go somewhere else and do them. So
for me, it's
an interesting thing.
It's a mental thing. I just tell my head to go outside and leave me alone, and then it's like I have several caps in my studio, and I just put this one on and I put that one on, and I say, okay, today's play day. Okay, it's play day. So everything else has to go.
Brilliant. I know, Charlotte, you wanted to ask about training, and because you were present at the letter exchange.
I was at the really good talk that you did at Letter Exchange for the Christmas lecture. If people haven't seen it, I don't know if it's up and ready, but at some point you'll be able to go online and download it and watch it for a very small fee. And I'd highly recommend people do that. But I thought it was such a fascinating talk, particularly at the end when you spoke about the change in attention span that you have noticed with your students, and also how you said you felt that you knew what you were training people for 10 years ago. But because of the rise of AI and the changing nature of work, you didn't know what we were training, what you were training people for, what their work would consist of and what skills they would need in the future. And I thought that was such an interesting. So both of those things are sort of tied together in a way with the advent of new technologies that grab our attention and have changed our ability to focus. And then, how those technologies are changing the nature of our work as they move forward. I thought, I feel it myself with the attention span. Going back to when I was a teenager in my bedroom, I could literally put my calligraphy pen nib on the paper at 8 o'clock in the evening and not look up until 2 o'clock in the morning. My music had stopped, my tea had gone cold, and I was oblivious to all of it. But I don't find it as easy to get into that. I think we call it a flow state over here anymore.
Do you have a question on that?
Well, I was just asking, you spoke about the impact of it on your students, and you had been working with some young students in a school doing handwriting lessons. I'd be interested just to hear a bit about that process, your views.
Well, the thing I spoke about during the lecture, they come from a serious worry. I mean, first of all, every year, it's also one of the reasons why the program changes so much. It's every year, if it's just me or with the team, we've been always putting the whole program on the table and saying, okay, what is still relevant? What do we think that when students sign up could be skills or topics that they might need as a professional. And we've seen that some of the things stayed, and I'm perhaps very conservative, and I think they should know. It's like common knowledge about lettering. But then other things that I think, well, is it still relevant? Is it still relevant? Should they know how to use this, etc., etc.? So that's a thing we do. We put this on the table, and what we've seen is, as I'm going to repeat myself, but is that the concentration span is really, really dropping. I mean, when I started, 6 hours of writing was nothing. They could do it. Really, 2 hours now, and then they need to stand up and do something, and so it's bizarre how that slowness of what we do is tricky for most people, and they want immediate results. So I'm also blaming the way that we have been teaching, as in a workshop. You do 2 days of calligraphy and that's it, then you can do it. It's ridiculous. Of course you can't, but students don't know why they can't. So I am changing my courses again, very much explaining why it is slow, why they can't go any quicker than they can. And with these life circumstances changing, with so much more digital input and distraction, that has had a huge impact on our concentration ability. Is that a worry? Well, that's the big question. I don't know if it's a worry. It's a worry for me, and the question is why it's a worry for me, because it's not the way that I've been trained. But is that enough? Does that mean that the way that I've been trained was the truth? In what particular context? So we need to ask ourselves a few things, as in what is relevant, what do we think is necessary, and also, I've said that in the lecture as well, I have no idea what this AI is doing. It's new to me. I don't know how to use it. I don't know what it can do. It's changing every bloody week almost. I mean, we are now looking into, when students have questions, should we now also have an AI chatbot who can respond to 90% of the general questions, so that my time is freeing up to focus on really important issues that the chatbot cannot explain. I mean, this is where we are with our program. Like, are we going to invest in this? Is this going to be worth it? Is this going to be relevant? Because I, on the other side, need to spend so much time with students explaining why their process is slow, which we didn't have to do 15 years ago. Everybody knew it was slow. So things are changing. And sometimes I'm going like, what do they need? Can I make a difference? Do I still have something that might be valuable to them? And there's a lot of personal talk, finding motivation. I mean, concentration. How can we do that? What is your body saying? How to connect again to the body? I mean, the body is making these lines, but we forget how to use it, because we're so used to push a few buttons, get an answer, and get on with life. So it's bizarre, these things that are changing. I'm not scared of it. It's just challenging, as in, what do these people need? And as to respond to the question of with the kids, working with the kids, I mean, I love working with these youngsters. I don't know, there was an article again in the newspaper today here in Belgium where there's again introducing handwriting. You go like, well, of course they're going to reintroduce it, as if it's a big invention. So they really, really see that there are problems with the kids in concentration levels and in fine motor skills and long-term memory. They know that now. So writing will, I think, become a very hot topic, if not now, then in a few years. Will it be calligraphy? I don't think so. Will it be writing? Yes. I think the future is in writing, not necessarily calligraphy. But what does that mean? How can we prepare a new generation? Should we still ask students to work with the broad edge nib and ink? Is that still relevant if we know that's slow? Do we have to do these things? I don't. Sometimes it's so tricky. I mean, why would I ask somebody to invest 6 years of their lives to learning the history of writing, as in fully understanding it, knowing that there's not going to be one calligraphy job coming out of that?
Yeah.
Would be ideal. I'm not saying that. I'm convinced of the importance of it. But how can we ask of somebody who's got X amount of time to invest in education to learn something we now know there's not going to be a job in that particular craft?
So things like graphic design, they're all going to be hit very hard by AI. I mean, they are already, really, aren't they?
Yeah, so new things arise, like in what kind of topic is important. I think that things will come back, like learning how to think, for instance. I think that's going to be a complete subject matter. How to use.
I was going to ask the question, the loss of these things are inevitable across the board, I think. And the loss of people able to focus is already here. We're working with that, aren't we? What if we don't persist in these hand skills and these kind of cognitive brain training skills? What do we lose? I mean, I guess it's to describe what is it we are losing rather than how do I make someone understand the value of it. Maybe we describe it as, you know, this is what we are losing and this is what you won't be able to do. So if you want to do it, then you have to do that. You know, there's no alternative to it. Maybe there is an
Well,
alternative to it.
first of all, when you say
What do we lose?
what are we losing as makers or as a society?
In general, I think we're losing it left, right, and centre in society, because I think a child taught the value of handwriting will actually be more contemplative and more thinking as a bank manager. I do
Yes.
think that, you know, it's and I think one of those things is pride. You know, there's a huge amount of pride in writing a thank you letter, a beautiful letter, or having, I remember being at school writing an essay by hand and having it pinned up on the board for people to read. You know, you said yourself, you got the best handwriting, you know, person.
Yeah.
And there's confidence, there's pride, etc., that's transferable across the board into the rest of your life. That's why it's important every kid should have a go at a musical instrument. That's why every kid should learn some poetry and you know, drama. Every kid should be able to pretend they're a tree. You know. But what I'm thinking is, as makers and designers, what if it can and will probably go down the AI automated route completely? What is it we're losing when it does finally go? When this generation of women sitting here, when we're all dead and gone, and there's not this conversation going on, what will they have lost?
At the moment, what is where the scientists see change is, as you're rightly saying, in this, it has a social aspect, as in losing confidence and joy. That is an important one they are worried about now. Of course, what we don't know, will the human being again adapt to these new circumstances, right? We don't know that at this moment. So I'm only saying what their worries are at the moment, what they think might be a problem for our society. So confidence and joy and in making. So as human beings are feeling good about ourselves is something they worry about. The second thing they worry about is the impact it has on long-term memory. They know now, they have enough evidence that not being able to write the way, or not being trained the way that our generation still has been trained, starts to have an effect on long-term memory skills, not short-term memory. There's absolutely no difference whether you be typing all your life or writing. There's no difference there. It's on the long-term memory. There is a huge difference. It means that again, what will the brain do? What will we do? Will we adapt to this? Will our way of living adapt to it? Therefore, we don't need this long-term memory anymore. Again, we don't know this. It's just a worry. And the third thing is that they are worried about is that their capacity to read diminishes when you don't know how to write. So there's an immediate link between reading and writing. And that's also very new. It's because they know now that we read the movement of the character. We don't read the static image. And that is quite new. And that is a bit worrying as well. It means that our capacity to read and our capacity to have a deeper understanding of text and written text is getting shallower. And
so
again,
can I just go back to when you said about the movement of the letters?
Mhm.
Is that the embedded memory of making a letter, the form, the movement of our hand?
It is the movement of our hand.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So we need to have that connection. We make that shape, and therefore that's what we read.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
Which I think was when I found out, I thought it was mind blowing, really mind blowing, that because it's been so logical. If you look at the history of lettering, so where efficiency and getting, more letters in the shorter amount of time in a more efficient way has been the drive for the development of writing anyway, and why shapes have changed. So in that logic,
I was going to say, I think that when writing first became accessible to people, there was a lot of thoughts around the fact that it would be detrimental to people's memory because they wouldn't have to remember everything. They could just write it down.
Mhm.
And, that has been proven to be the case that when people took up writing en masse, the ability to read and write en masse, our memories changed in how we remember things, even from that hundreds of years ago, from that big change. It did change how our memories worked.
And that is, of course, now our next step,
Yeah.
as in the question, what are we going to lose? Are we losing anything?
Well, we don't know what we've lost,
I mean,
do
we
we?
won't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be not for our generation. We won't know. But the worry is there, and it means we see a transition, and now it is, can we go against it? No, it's what it is. But it is something like, whew, this is going to be interesting. We know that something will change.
Is this a very Western viewpoint, do you think? Are there other cultures where the written word, the character, the hand drawn is still embedded in the everyday importance of their cultural identity? I know we've lost that in a sense, but are there other parts of the world where this is still being hung on to?
I will be honest with you. I wouldn't want to have an opinion on that because I simply don't know.
Me neither. That's why I asked you.
I have chosen from a very early age, after doing 3 years of Japanese calligraphy. I thought, no, I will stick to the Western world, and so I wouldn't want to go into that. There are people competent who can answer you, but I can't answer.
I think there's no answers because we don't know the answers to this, but I would be really interested if there's any people out there who are listening to this conversation, let us know what their thoughts are. What do other people think, especially if you're younger.
It's really interesting to know parents of younger children who value calligraphy, writing, all of that. What's happening with your kids at home. That's really interesting to know.
Well, I think, if other people have got any thoughts and they want to get in touch with us and give us their views, I think I would be really interested to hear what people think about some of the things we've discussed.
So what does this week hold for you? What are you working on this week? What have you? Yeah.
I have 6 stones in the pipeline to do.
Oh my God. Sound like Charlotte. That sounds like Charlotte's week.
I am teaching tomorrow, I'm teaching on Wednesday, I'm teaching on Thursday, and on Friday I'm off to the southern part of this beautiful country to teach a whole weekend in the Ardennes, a weekend workshop, the second part.
Wow.
So it's a very busy week this week. But of course that's only, the school year is very busy, and then I have 2 big breaks where I can actually catch up with other work. So yeah, it's
that's
busy.
What we like to hear.
I like to be busy.
I'd like to hear that everybody's busy.
And busy passing on those brilliant skills.
This is the thing. Certain aspects of our job may change, but for me, the alphabet is still there. And I don't think that the alphabet is going to disappear quite quickly. So therefore, it's so worth it to look into what we're offering and what we're doing and seeing if we need to change things, because it's still an opportunity to work with these beautiful shapes and actually make them work in 2026 onwards. So that's
from the dawn of time, we wanted to inscribe something in stone, haven't we? We've scratched the symbol from the beginning of time. There's something we need to graffiti from runes to graffitied church pews to high-end memorials. We've needed to put letters into a hard material since we've been able to.
And I don't think that need is going to go quite quickly. So it's still there. So therefore, people are saying, you're still getting by, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we have so much. There's so much to do. So I'm fascinated by the change, but I'm not really scared of it. No.
I think a nice point to end on. We're not scared of change.
Definitely not. Oh God, no, it's exciting. It's very exciting. But you have to be prepared to review things. And when something is no longer working, it's not about, oh damn, people don't understand me. No, it's like, okay, why is this not working? What can we do with it? It's quite simple,
Before we go, we would, if you've got a top tip for our listeners.
And it can be anything. It can be absolutely anything. So Charlotte has had some brilliant ones, like always wearing a small neckerchief or a hanky around her neck so her bra doesn't get full of stone chips, through to stretching at lunchtime, or I don't know. We've had a few top tips, haven't we, Charlotte?
I think if there's it's a bit bigger than that, as in a more philosophical approach to things. But I really think this is what I tell my boy: go for what you really want to do in life. Really work for it, go for it, and never give up. There's always a way. Always.
What is that phrase you have at the beginning? All in.
All in, yeah.
All in.
I really, really believe that, and it's the advice I've given my son when he was struggling. What should I do? I said, I don't care what you do, but just do it wholeheartedly and go for it. That's what I would say. Never give up. And it's not because ladder forms are not very hot, or they are not like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to make a living? Yes, you will, if you work.
Well, thank you. Thank you ever so much.
You are more than welcome. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Lieve Cornil. So that was really good, wasn't it?
She's a really interesting woman, I think. Very driven, very passionate about what she does. Very, very, yeah.
And the
very
drive,
articulate.
really. Deep thinking, academic.
And obviously because, she was excelling at university, but then decided to take the leap of faith. I love that story where she said to the tutor of the scriptorium, I need to know if I'm going to do that. You need to be honest with me. Tell me if I'm any good at this. I really like that story.
Me too.
So here we are at the end of another episode, and we've got some exciting guests coming up, and really, really keen to share them with everybody, and we'll try and keep this momentum going.
So if you are enjoying our podcast, we never think to say this, but please do like and subscribe and spread the word and share the links with your friends, because we are very slowly getting more interest, and it's great to hear that. So please like and subscribe. And if you've got any questions or top tips you'd like to send in, or any comments, any nice comments, then please do. We're not interested in the horrible comments. We don't mind being challenged, but we don't want.
So my top tip today, I'm going to out us with a top tip, and my top tip is, if you have to work with somebody in your workshop, if you have to get someone in, my top tip is to get somebody who cooks delicious homemade food and basically feeds you for the entire time that they're working with you. So I've been working with Charlotte Howard for a few weeks, and every single day there's been a cool box delivered. And in that cool box, I've had the most incredible food, from homemade vegetable pasties to homemade watercress soup yesterday. Wonderful. So if you are interviewing or thinking of getting someone into the workshop, I would say, as part of the interview process, make them cook you a packed lunch. Ask them to bring lunch and judge them severely if they get you a Tesco meal deal, basically. It really does.
It makes the day joyful,
about 10 o'clock, I'm like, what's in the bag? What's in the bag? So I can't wait for lunch. Anyway, that's my top tip. Not really stone carving related, but actually very important. Keeps you going. Keeps you going.
A good lunch. Keeps you focused. Keeps your energy levels up.
So have a lovely month. We'll see. We'll hear you, I hope, from your comments. We'll be back with another brilliant guest. You won't be disappointed, in a few weeks' time. So in the meantime, happy chipping. Bugger.